After seeing Elena, Ghislain hurriedly rushes and hugs his younger sister, which shocks Elena. Even Belinda is shocked by Ghislain's sudden actions. Elena seems embarrassed, blushing as she panics and asks her older brother what is wrong with him today. She asks Ghislain what kind of prank he's pulling this time. Ghislain just tells his younger sister that he misses her. Elena pushes Ghislain, telling him to let go of her, and the maidservant catches Ghislain. Elena tells her older brother that he's creeping her out. Ghislain, coughing from the push, can only think about how amazing Elena's strength is, especially coming from a child. He starts to wonder if she has always been that strong. Elena looks annoyed while wiping her shoulder. She says that Belinda asked her to be there. Elena asks Ghislain what game he's playing now. She asks if he thinks that this makes everything okay. Ghislain asks what she means by that. Elena tells her older brother that he once told her to piss off because she was annoying and said that just feeling her breath was disgusting. Elena glares at him, asking if he forgot everything after saying all that. Ghislain starts sweating, asking if he really said all that. He thinks that he wasn't close to Elena in his past life and was a complete piece of trash, so Ghislain can only apologize to his sister. Belinda is shocked, asking Elena if she heard it right that Ghislain apologized first. Elena is also shocked, telling her older brother that she heard an Urk attack them and asks if the Urk hit his head. Ghislain says it wasn't the Urk that got him. He was the one who slew all the Urks. He shouts, asking why they keep implying that he got hit, but before he can even finish his sentence, he feels intense pain in his body. In the end, Ghislain falls down onto his knees. Elena sarcastically tells him he's right, saying he must have defeated them in that state and came back unconscious. Belinda and Elena start laughing, teasing Ghislain at that moment. Ghislain is silent, listening and watching the two, who seem happy. He thinks that everyone is the same as he remembered them, and he starts questioning himself about why his past self wasted so much time on useless things. At the festival next week, Ghislain rejected Elena's offer to go together, making an excuse that the raid squad's events upset him, and at that moment, it was the last time he saw her alive. Elena's body was later found shredded to pieces along with her bodyguards. Ghislain shakes, thinking about it, clenching his chest, thinking he should have been with her. Then someone knocks on the door, asking if they can come in. It's actually Elena's bodyguards looking for her. The bodyguard on the left side is Jamal, and on the right side is Philip. Elena slowly walks toward them and asks if something happened because she told them to wait outside. Jamal apologizes for the sudden intrusion and tells Elena that the servants asked her to oversee their work on the festival supplies. Ghislain, confused, asks why the people would ask Elena to work on that. Belinda tells Ghislain that he wouldn't know because he always lazes around all day. Belinda wonders why there's a shortage of workers in Perdium, making it necessary for even the young lady to work. Elena bids farewell and says she's heading out, telling Ghislain to take care of himself. Ghislain starts to question if they're really that short on workers. He thinks that back then he didn't care about these things, so it's obvious he doesn't know now. So he calls his sister and says that he will help as well. After hearing that, Elena stops walking and looks back at her older brother in shock. Belinda and Elena turn pale after hearing that. Belinda asks if Ghislain really volunteered to help. On the other hand, Elena questions if he really got hit in the head. Ghislain was just silent, listening to these two looking down on him. All of the workers gathered in the place, arranging all the supplies for the festival. The people seemed to be in fear, seeing Ghislain in person at the supplies area. Ghislain shouted, saying that he would help this time. Elena told Ghislain to go away, saying that people would be too scared to work around him. Elena shoved her older brother's face. Ghislain asked Elena if that was how she treated someone who wanted to help. Elena said the only way he could help them was by staying out of their way and out of trouble. Ghislain was thinking that Elena's body was found near the slums, far from the festival grounds. He thought that someone must have called her out there or furtively moved her there. He was thinking that to prevent that, he needed to know the ins and outs of the castle first. Then a knight in armor rushed in, calling the young Lord Ghislain. Ghislain looked at the man and was shocked to see a familiar face. Ghislain started to question what the old man Fergus was doing there. Old man Fergus, panting, gave thanks that the young master was well, even after hearing the news. Old man Fergus started crying, holding the young lord's shoulders. He told Ghislain that he, a lowly servant, made his way to Ghislain as soon as he heard the news about the Urks. Ghislain told the old man they could stop talking about that now. Elena started smiling and told the old man that the timing was perfect. Elena said that Ghislain was acting weird right after waking up, so she asked the old man to please take Ghislain back to his room. Old man Fergus said he would follow the young lady's wish. Ghislain was annoyed, thinking that his damned hooligan image was getting in his way again. He could only do a facepalm because his image couldn't be helped. He planned to get to know what was going on around the castle better in the following week. Ghislain called Old Man Fergus and asked him if there was an abandoned training field in the castle. He asked the old man to bring him there. The old man was shocked to hear that and asked for clarification about the training field and why Ghislain was looking for it. Ghislain, with a serious face, said he would go there to train. Hearing that shocked Old Man Fergus, who told the young lord he would lead the way. Within a few minutes, they arrived at the training area, which caught Ghislain's attention. Ghislain started to question what this place was. He said it was in much better condition than he had expected. Ghislain started to look around the training grounds. He was thinking it was perfectly suitable for him to train at. He thought he had never seen anything like it in his life as a mercenary. Old Man Fergus said they kept it maintained in case young Lord Ghislain wished to use the facilities. Old Man Fergus hadn't lost faith in his young lord. He said he was certain that what young Lord Ghislain was going through was just a phase. Hearing that shocked Ghislain. He started to wonder if Old Man Fergus in his past life had also maintained the place for him. He could only look down in silence, thinking about what had happened in the past. Ghislain tapped the old man's shoulder. He told Old Man Fergus that he really needed to live a long life this time because dying felt like hell. Old Man Fergus didn't understand what he meant and asked for clarification. Old Man Fergus said Ghislain was acting as if he had already experienced life and death. Ghislain said that, as expected, the old man was quite sharp. He smiled and said that he actually did die and was resurrected. Old Man Fergus told his young lord that it was time to stop the foolery. Ghislain told Old Man Fergus that he could head back now since he was going to start his training. Old Man Fergus bowed and said he would be just outside. Ghislain looked back at the old man, thinking that in the past, he had always treated everyone around him as if they were his enemies. But realizing what happened now, he could only think that he was short-sighted. Ghislain thought that time was running out and all he had was just a week. Back then, it was revealed that the one behind Elena's death was a lord from a neighboring territory. Because of that, Perdium got caught up in a war, which led to its downfall. Ghislain thought that Elena's death was essentially the starting point of their house's downfall, which meant he needed to set things straight from there. The first thing he planned to do was to get a better physique. For him, it was frustrating that he didn't have much time. He started his breathing, realizing that even with the short time he had, he should at least be able to control mana. Mana is a supernatural resource that allows humans to break through their limits. Most people say that noticing and taking in mana is the hardest part, but Ghislain was able to do it even on the chaotic battlefield. He needed to connect the mana particles floating in the air and bundle them up as if he were a spinning spool. For someone like him, who had experienced tens of thousands of battles, creating a mana core was a piece of cake. But for Ghislain, if it were just that, he couldn't have been part of the strongest 7 in the land. Using the method from the half-burned book on magic that he picked up and the natural mana core of humans, he could create a second mana core and even a third. Creating a connected mesh of multiple cores would allow him to create an explosive force. But after forcing himself to do that, he started coughing blood, and his nose began bleeding too. Ghislain was panting. He said that 3 cores were his limit for now, even though he was able to reach 5 in his past life. This method allowed him to create an explosive force in a short time, but it also required an extremely large amount of mana in return. For Ghislain, this was the primary reason he lost to Idun in his past life, who brought an entire Night Order to fight against him when he had run out of mana. Ghislain believed that he definitely would have won if it had been a fair fight. He thought that it was an inherently unstable technique, but this was enough for now, as he had a youthful body and plenty of time now. He promised that he would have Idun's head this time. To Ghislain, even those bastards standing behind the House of Delphini who helped destroy their country were targets. He planned to destroy them all, feeling angry as he thought about the past. 1 week later, The day of the festival arrived, and Ghislain began his preparations, including strapping his sword onto himself. He went to the place where he was supposed to meet his younger sister. Elena was shocked to see her older brother actually show up where they were supposed to meet. Elena said she was amazed to see her older brother actually come this time. She asked him what had happened to him, since he never came to these sorts of things. Ghislain said that as a Perdium, he should at least come to festivals every once in a while. Elena told Ghislain that he had been acting really odd recently. She said she had also heard that Ghislain had been doing nothing but training over the past week. Ghislain asked his younger sister what was so wrong about the next in line of the Knight family doing some training. Elena told him that he hadn't cared about these kinds of things before. She reminded him that he once said their dad was annoying and that he wished he was the Lord already. Hearing that hit Ghislain, Elena laughed and started walking slowly, saying she liked the way things were now. She was blushing, saying it seemed like the old Ghislain was back. Ghislain was silent, listening to the whims of his younger sister. He began to think deeply. He realized something over the past week, because his actions had changed, his reception and the future were also slowly beginning to change. On the other hand, Belinda warned Jamal and Philip, telling them to figure it out themselves if the young master created trouble. She said they couldn't afford to have any problems, especially with so many visitors. Philip and Jamal start sweating, telling Belinda that she doesn't need to worry and she can trust them. Going back to Ghislain, the general flow of things might be the same, but it is difficult to gauge the impact of his actions on small events. Making good use of the information from the future is his job right now. He thought that he needed to respond to each situation effectively. Ghislain touched the secret weapon hidden in his pocket, saying that his preparations were now complete. Ghislain follows his younger sister wherever she goes, keeping an eye on everything his sister is doing while Elena is having fun. Elena says that it is fun, but it's getting a little boring since it's the same every year. She begins to wonder if there is anything new this year. But Ghislain's attention is somewhere else. He starts to question in his mind because the festival is almost over, yet nothing has happened. He wonders if it is because he is with Elena. Then a guard comes in, asking Elena if she wants to check out the other areas as well. The bodyguard mentions that, according to his friend, there are new events elsewhere. The bodyguard asks Elena what she thinks about that. Elena asks if that's true. She goes with the guard, smiling and saying that this better be fun. But Ghislain starts glaring at the guards, thinking it must be the two of them. He says that the bodyguards Jamal and Philip are the traitors of their house. Those guys are smiling creepily while looking at Ghislain. Elena's escort knights, Jamal and Philip, were the most trusted knights in the feud because they had protected Elena since she was a child. It was known that they were murdered while protecting Elena in Ghislain's past life. But for now, the primary suspects for being the traitors in their house are these two bodyguards, and it's up to Ghislain to prove if his hunch is correct. Jamal cheerfully shows the place, saying that they're already here at the location he mentioned. But everyone falls silent because the place looks like an abandoned area with nothing in sight. Elena seems disappointed as she looks around. She asks what this is and why there's nothing there. Elena asks Jamal if he's sure there will be a performance in such a dirty place. Jamal starts scratching his neck, saying he guesses they aren't prepared yet. Jamal tells Elena that he thinks the people will arrive soon. Elena angrily tells Jamal to stop making jokes. She asks Jamal who would want to perform in a place like that. Ghislain stays silent, observing the area, but this is what he expected. For him, this may look like a simple deserted street at first, but the obstacles blocking the escape route suggest they prepared in advance. Then Elena suddenly grabs Ghislain, saying they need to leave now. Jamal tries to persuade her, calling her young lady, and asks if she thinks they should at least wait to see the show since they're already there. Elena says no thanks, saying she isn't going to watch a show in a place like this. Ghislain asks Elena if she works out or something because she's so strong. Elena seems annoyed after hearing that, but Philip suddenly bumps into Elena, pushing her aside. Philip calls her young lady and looks at her creepily, telling them to wait a little longer. Elena starts sweating as she sees his face, looking somewhat frightened. She, visibly scared, tells her escort knights that they're acting strangely and asks what the matter is today. But the two start surrounding the Perdium siblings. Jamal says he didn't mean to scare the young lady, Elena. He claps his hands and smiles creepily, saying it's because a reasonable request came in. Elena begins to question what this request is. Then, 3 mysterious men begin to appear. The one leading them is Frank. Frank says that, as expected, Jamal and Philip's work process is clean. Jamal proudly replies, of course, saying that they brought the young lady as promised and tells Frank that they need the deal right there. But Frank notices something. He notices Ghislain and asks if that is the eldest son of Perdium. Frank says that he didn't think he requested the eldest son to be brought there. Elena clings to Ghislain, shaking with fear, but Ghislain doesn't flinch at all. Jamal looks like a villain right now, and he says that he will hand Ghislain over for free. Jamal says that Ghislain foolishly followed them, not realizing that this would be his graveyard. Ghislain tells Jamal that he must have sold them out. Ghislain asks Jamal if he really thinks he can get away with just that. Jamal just smirks and tells Ghislain, "Why don't you just start worrying about yourself first?" Jamal says that all they need to do is run away to a faraway place. Jamal says they are getting sick and tired of this impoverished land, tormented by the barbarians. Jamal laughs, saying he's sure that plenty of others are leaving Perdium besides them anyway. But while this guy is acting arrogantly, Ghislain already steps forward without hesitation and releases a downward strike. The guy is confused, asking what happened, but he has already received the slash and is coughing blood. Philip is shocked to see that his friend was slashed, as are Elena and Frank, because they did not expect Ghislain to do that. As Jamal's body is cut, Ghislain tells him that even though others started moving, at least they never sold them out. Ghislain looks back at Philip, glaring at him, and asks Philip if he agrees with what he said. Philip starts panicking, making Elena his hostage. He says that Jamal was an idiot, asking how a knight could lose to an amateur like that. But a sword suddenly fly into Philip's head. It was a perfect headshot. Mana was actually embedded in it. As Philip slowly loses his life, he says that it was impossible for that to happen. With a single throw of the sword, Philip loses his life and falls to the ground. Ghislain watches him without a hint of mercy for the traitorous bastard, but his young sister sees everything. One of the assassins with Frank asks if they are sure it's the eldest son of the Perdium family. The other assassin says he thought Ghislain never had any real combat experience or fundamental training. Frank says that judging by Ghislain's appearance, he isn't mistaken at all. Frank thinks that, although they were taken off guard, Ghislain instantly killed 2 knights. And what alarms him is that Ghislain attacked using mana. Elena looks worried, hugging her older brother while shaking. She asks her older brother what is happening right now. Ghislain is silent the whole time. But suddenly, he smacks Elena's neck to make her lose consciousness. Then he lays Elena down on the ground, telling her to take a little rest. Ghislain looks back at the enemy with killing intent. Frank thanks Ghislain, saying he is grateful for doing the work for them as the eldest son of Perdium. Frank says that Ghislain is much different from what he had heard. He says they were planning to take care of those to themselves. Then Frank puts the tobacco pipe in his mouth and asks Ghislain if he has been hiding his true skills the whole time. Ghislain pulls out his sword and asks Frank why it matters to him if he was hiding his skills. Ghislain looks at the enemy, thinking that what he needs to defeat are 3 people right now. For Ghislain, the 2 beside Frank are nothing, but the one in the middle, who is Frank, exudes a different level of mana. Ghislain emits some mana, and thread-like strands start forming in his hands. He plans to end this quickly. Ghislain tells Frank that he'll ask him one thing, and then he asks about the one who requested this. Frank asks Ghislain if there is any need for a dead man to know about that. Then Ghislain starts to get serious this time. He says that he knows Frank wouldn't say it easily, no matter what. Ghislain threatens him, saying he'll want to spill those words soon enough anyway. One of the assassins behind Frank asks if they should sever his head. Frank says they don't need to do that. Frank orders him to capture Ghislain alive and break every limb in his body so that he can't help but go mad. Frank smiles, saying Ghislain should writhe in pain for the shape to come out beautifully. 2 of Frank's underlings start to move as they follow their leader's command. Ghislain is also ready to release that one attack. He pulls out the thing he said he needed for preparation and throws it in front of the 2 assassins. The assassin rushing in starts to sweat, asking if that was a firecracker. But that firecracker snaps as someone slices through it. It's Ghislain, who thrusts his sword into the enemy's head, killing him instantly. But the other assassin doesn't flinch, even after seeing his ally die. He tells Ghislain that it was just a shallow trick. As the assassin slashes at Ghislain's side, Ghislain blocks it easily. Then he glares at the enemy with the fastest intensity, watching their movements as if he can read them through and through. Then he uses his arm to capture the sword, locking it in his grasp, which shocks the enemy. After twisting his arm, he manages to take away the enemy's sword, and then Ghislain slices that enemy down without hesitation. While Ghislain is distracted, something catches his attention. It's Frank, playing dirty and slashing at Ghislain's back. But even in that split second, Ghislain manages to move his arm and block the attack, which alarms Frank. Frank starts sweating, questioning how Ghislain managed to block his attack in that position, since it was a perfect sneak attack. Ghislain moves his body to gain momentum and is about to release an upward strike. In that moment, the attack seems to hit the villain. It was a perfect hit aimed at the neck, a flawless upward strike from the MC that even sliced through the tobacco pipe. But it only results in a minor cut as Frank evades it. The tobacco pipe and some of Frank's hair are cut off by Ghislain in the process. Frank manages to counter with a downward strike, but Ghislain blocks it using two swords. Frank embeds some mana into the wound on his neck. He actually uses mana to create some sort of mana shield, protecting his neck from Ghislain's attack. He says he was so surprised, telling Ghislain that if he had been lacking in mana, he would have been beheaded just now. On the other hand, Ghislain, who is blocking the attack, is confused. He starts to question how Frank survived a strike to his neck and wonders if Frank focused his mana around his neck to reduce the damage. Frank puts tremendous force into his sword, pressing Ghislain down, and infuses it with an even stronger surge of mana. Frank smiles, ready to get serious this time. He tells Ghislain that he has no clue how Ghislain learned swordsmanship at his age, but he says that Ghislain shall die here,